All right. Well, welcome to the plague. And let me just start by asking the main question I'm sure everyone's been asking, but how's the pandemic been for you? How have you survived it? And like what ended up getting canceled last year? What did you end up doing instead?
I mean, we started pre-sale for our new record Final Days in, I think it was November 2019. And we were like 30% done the recording, stuff like that. I think we did the drums and the choirs, like weird combination. I know what drums and choirs, like straight after Christmas 2019. And in our case, there was so much stuff going wrong during these recordings, not even because of the pandemic. That was just a cherry on top. But we had so many problems in so many areas that when the pandemic hit, we were like, well, yes, and the worldwide pandemic. What else? This is the only thing that was missing, actually. And so I was basically trying, because I just ran into like what we would call a clusterfuck, where I had a lot of productions in my studio that have been moved as well, and everything was like a total mess timing wise. And so I almost spent like almost whole 2020 trying to get the ORDEN OGAN record finished. And like I said, there were so many problems even before, with some weird stuff with the power grid going on, a lot of problems with the drum recordings. And there were, in the end, I think the worst thing that happened was that basically our mixing projects died for some reason. And I still don't get it to this point, what went wrong. And I really had to, In the Dawn of the AI was already released. And so I basically had to redo everything from scratch and try to get back to the sound that we had before, which is like virtually impossible, actually. I'm actually super surprised that it sounds like one record now. The pandemic, like I said, it was just the cherry on top for us. Obviously, when we tried to do our video shoots, we couldn't. Nothing went the way it planned. It was planned. We couldn't go to the locations that we wanted to. We couldn't get the actors to the sets. We couldn't get like bigger groups of people to the sets. It was like all a mess. And actually, there was a headlining tour planned for September last year as well, with special guests Gravedigger and Rage. That would have made like an amazing German metal package, at least here in Europe. That would have been great. Yeah. We had to postpone that. We postponed that now to April this year. And but Gravedigger and Rage, it was conflicting with their schedule, so we had to take on Brothers of Metal and Wind Rose, which is also great. Like having like an old school lineup, and then like the really modern one, and ORDEN OGAN, we can do it with all like with the seasoned veterans. With the silver hair, as well as with the new modern bands. This is the great thing about ORDEN OGAN. But obviously, this tour also had to be postponed now to February 2022. 2020, yeah, we're 2021, right? Yeah, so 2022. And the good thing for me is that I'm doing ORDEN OGAN full time, but I could also do my studio full time, my Green Man Studios, which I'm doing for a couple of years now. And so always depending on how the situation is, I will do just ORDEN OGAN or just the studio. And so it was not that bad for me, because I was able to compensate for a lot of it with the studio stuff that I was doing. And so yes, at least for me it was not that terrible, but for the other guys it was. Like our drummer Dirk, for example, he's just a drum teacher. He couldn't do that anymore, and he's playing in some cover bands as well, and he couldn't do that also not anymore. So you go from what you normally have to virtually nothing. So
Does the band all live in the same area, or how far apart are you guys?
It depends a bit. Like I think Steven, the new bass player, he's the farthest away with like 400 kilometers or so. And Dirk, our drummer, he's actually from around this area, but nowadays he's most of the time in Hamburg. This is also like almost 400 kilometers. So it is and the opposite direction. So like these two are like 800 kilometers or something. But I mean, it is what it is. If you want to have or want to work with like really good musicians, you don't find 20 of them in the same town, you know.
Let me move on to talk about the new album a little bit. The title and the title and some of the lyrics have kind of a very apocalyptic feel to them, especially in terms of like humanity's relationship with technology. I'm just kind of curious, like how much of that is just kind of like a story that's interesting to tell, or how much do you feel like that reflects like where we're at and kind of a warning of like, where we might be going?
I think the first thing we came up with was a title. I thought Final Days is super catchy, and I thought, okay, this would make a great album title. And so the original idea was to do a record full of songs where each song is about one different possibility how mankind could find its end. And so we actually started with In the Dawn of the AI, that is about this artificial intelligence, like a real artificial intelligence that will take control and get rid of us humans. Then I think the next thing we wrote was lyrically was It Is Over, where it is about the last asteroid impact on Earth. Funny side note, maybe there was also a song about a killer virus, and we decided to not put it on the record because we felt it was highly inappropriate right now. I mean, the thing is, music should be like partly escapism as well, right? So people are reading and listening to this word virus all the time. So we're like, oh, come on, dude. Maybe I think it's a great song. The name of the song is December. I think we will release it like later on, once everything is going back to normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, we wanted to do like a real sci-fi record, and so one other thing that I really like to do is take a semantic field, like a field of words that are some sort of connected with the main theme of the record, and then build metaphors that actually tell a totally different story. So, for example, you got this song Black Hole. I mean, it's obvious that you will be reminded of space and stuff when you hear Black Hole, but the song actually is about the feeling of the weight of your own depression that is dragging you down to the ground. And collapsing under this weight, And for example, there's this other song called "Heart of the Android," and people were thinking it is about the question if a program or a robot or whatever can develop some sort of a personality once it's sophisticated enough. But actually, it's about a person that feels that he or she just has to function, and people expect him to function like a machine. And I really love doing that, and I did that with a lot of tracks in the past as well. And it's always amazing when people are coming to you after the show and like, oh, I just understood what this song is about. It's so great. And yeah, I mean, actually, I think coming back to your question, I think the AI, that is a real threat. I mean, or we should see it as a possible threat. I mean, Elon Musk is warning about that all the time. He says we need regulation, and he's right. So possibly you are one of the smartest people that is on this planet right now. So he's absolutely right with that. I mean, everything that we have right now is just a self-learning program, stuff like that. I don't think that there is like a real artificial intelligence so far, like a program that is self-aware and starts to set its own goals and stuff. But if there is one, I mean, I don't think it will be. I don't think it's likely that we will have the Skynet version of this, like the Terminator version. But it depending on what the goals of this AI might be, we could possibly be in the way. Just like if you want to build a house and there are ants on the floor, and have their anthill, you wouldn't really worry too much about them and just dig the hole and put your foundation in. You know what I mean? And and also I think a big asteroid is also due. So I think there should like statistically there should be one in the next years. So let's see. At least we got the killer virus covered already.
Yeah. Got that out of the way, hopefully. When you were talking about the recording, you said you got you finished a lot of the work, or some of the work, before the pandemic struck. I was kind of curious about when you record the choirs, like how much is involved in that? It's such an integral part of the sound that I can't imagine like how you layer those. Like how many different tracks are there? How many different people do you usually have involved?
It really depends. There is, for example, there's a lot of stuff that I actually do like completely on my own. There is, for example, like the post-chorus in Heart of the Android that is just me singing with a lot of layered vocals in terms of, you normally do like the main melody and do like 3 takes, one on the left, one on the right, one in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And then you layer, put a third on it, a fifth octave, and some falsetto vocals and stuff like that. And it will start sounding like at least like multi-layered vocals already. And when it comes to the choruses, we always work with a bigger group of people. I think on Gunman it was like 22 people or so, and we do the same approach, like 22 people singing unisono, all the same, one in the left, one in the center, one in the right, and then do all the takes. So if you add that up, you will be like 100 people, 120 people singing or stuff like that. On final days, we took a different approach. I wanted to work with a smaller group, and this time it was just 4 people plus me. But it also worked fine. It's a little bit more direct, doesn't sound as washy as like I said, like more direct compared to Gunman. But it really depends. I thought it was the better approach for this record.
Yeah, the cover art too also seems like a little bit more direct. It's like it's more streamlined looking than some of the past covers. Can you tell me a little bit about like how you came up with the idea for that? Who did the artwork and all that?
In the past, we always worked with Andreas Marschall, who is a true legend in the metal scene. You know, he did a lot of really, really amazing artworks from a lot of artworks that you really know, like Agent Orange from Sodom, for example, a lot of Blind Guardian stuff, a lot of Creator. Like in the 90s, it seems like he did almost every artwork.
Yeah.
And then he got a little bit lost in some years and didn't do too much. And we basically tried to get in contact with him and did everything. And I think the Andreas Marschall artwork really belonged to the Orden Ogan identity as well. And he actually did an artwork for Final Days as well. But it didn't really fit the mood of the record. It's a great artwork, and we still got it, and I'm pretty sure we will use it at a certain point, because it would just be a waste to not use it. But it looked more like a post-apocalyptic scenario, whereas we wanted to go for like you said, streamlined, like a more clean, high-tech science fiction image. And maybe there was some misconception before. I don't know. I mean, he did that. It is like pretty long ago. Meanwhile, so it could be that our vision just changed while we were still working on the record. I don't really know. But this one was done by Sebastian. He's a guy from Germany here as well. He did a couple of T-shirt designs for us in the past. And I think he totally nailed it. So I don't know if you've seen the full thing, like with the back cover where Alistair Vale is on this digital altar and stuff. It really is some amazing artwork. And I mean, of course, there were some people complaining, but there will always be people complaining if you change the cover artist and stuff. And I think personally, when I really got my hands on the digipack with this embossed, I think the logo and the Alistair Vale character is embossed, and it looks like super nice. And also, if you got the big vinyl, this is like a really, really nice looking artwork. So
cool. The first song, it's in some of the past albums you guys have had like intros and that kind of just lead into the album. And this album, it seems like it's more just like, okay, here you are. You're just jumping right into it. How much time do you put into like the song orders and like figuring all that out?
I usually do that while we are still writing already. So I always have an impression like the song "It Is Over." It was crystal clear that has to be the last song on the record. I was not really sure about. I actually thought that "In the Dawn of the AI" would be the opener. but then we felt that Heart of the Android works just better, and worked a little bit with that. But it actually normally it's a process, but it actually goes pretty quick. It gets set like really, but it's necessary. You know, we work with so many different tempi in the songs, so many different keys. So you don't want to have like 3 songs that have like a same tempo or the same key in the beginning, and then everything else sounds different. They have to fit to each other, you know, if you listen to that in the flow. And so it's an important part, actually. Yeah.
You've worked with some pretty amazing guests in the past, and on this one you have both Ylva Eriksson,
Yes.
Brothers of Metal, and Gus G appearing on it. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got together with them?
The thing is, when it comes to Orden Ogan, I mean, I'm making my living out of that. Do we say it like that? Make your living out of it? How would you say I make my living doing that?
Yeah.
Make my living, yeah. And but I mean, it's a great situation, but I would do that regardless. If they're like 420,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, or just 4,000, or like 4, you know, I would do these records because I love to do that, because it's what I want to do.
Right.
We're in the fortunate situation that it works now, and but really, the primary thing for me is the art. Yeah, and so also in the past, and also on this record, it was never about name dropping. Never ever. It was never about getting like the biggest name for something. It was always about what can a possible guest bring to the table. And in terms of that, I mean, I don't think I have to talk about Gus G, because it's obvious that he's like one of the best guitar players on the planet. And it happened because we had, sounds super stupid, but it happened because we had some problems with our former guitar player Toby, who is now on a long vacation, basically. And we were basically just kidding, saying like, yeah, okay, if he can't come over, play the solos, maybe we will have to find guest guitar players. And Niels, our former bass player, now guitar player, Niels said, you know, I've been on tour with Gus, I can ask Gus. And we were like, yeah, do it. You know, I mean, of course. And I think between that conversation and the final solo was just a couple of days. And it sounds super stupid, but it came from just kidding around, basically. And I mean, obviously, it's an honor for us to have him on the record, like the former Ozzy Osbourne guitar player, now Firewind. And I mean, what he's playing speaks for itself. I knew exactly what I would get when he did the solo. I was actually laughing when I pulled the fader up, because I was like, yeah, this is like exactly what I was expecting. And as for Ylva, the song Alone in the Dark, it was written from 2 different perspectives. And so it was clear for us that we wanted to have a female vocal in the second verse and the chorus. Okay. And so there were a lot of names thrown around on who could possibly do that. And Ylva was suggested by one guy of FM Records, I think. And I'd seen them live. I'd met her briefly, though I think she was just wearing a towel because she was on her way to the shower or something. Like really, like hi, okay. But I listened back to the video clips of Brothers of Metal, and I was thinking to myself, I think that could really be really, really good if she did that with like a fragile, low, melancholic voice. And that was exactly what happened when we sent her the tracks. I think she delivered like the perfect performance. I don't think that any female singer in the world could have done that in a better way, like differently, okay, but not better. I think she totally nailed it. I'm super happy with that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. This is just one of those little things that probably no one cares about except me, but the band logo to me is interesting because it's kind of got like this scripted logo, but then kind of behind it, there's like this shadow that's more of a printed block logo. How did the logo come about?
It is super old, actually. I mean, the thing is, okay, I have to clear a little bit up here. I mean, we count the history of Orden Ogan from 2008 on, when the Veil record was released. That is our official label debut. And it's a different band than what has been there before. I mean, you can read on the internet that we've been founded in 1996. That's not really true. I mean, I was 15 years old and bought my first guitar back then. So there was no real band. We were pupils hanging out at the rehearsal space eating pizza. Yes, the name was around back then, but the band also was split up before 2008, and then we refounded the band.
Okay.
And actually, we were thinking about picking another name, but somehow, I don't know if we wanted to pay homage to our old days or whatever, but we picked that again. And I think the logo was already around like back in 1998 or something like that. And we would have loved to change the logo in all these years. And we had a lot of graphic designers and people do some stuff. But we were like, okay, it's so recognizable. What you said is with the two layers, you recognize it like instantly because it's just something different than what everyone else is doing.
Right.
So we were thinking all the time, I don't think it's a pretty good logo. It's a pain in the A to put it like on some shirts and stuff like that, because it basically just works like on top like this, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's great for festivals. We like to be on top like this, but from time to time you're not. So the thing is, we asked a lot of guys, a lot of designers, and like professional designers as well. And a lot of people tried their luck. But we thought if we change it, it has to be like the perfect logo, like something that is really amazing. And basically, everyone was just coming up with stuff that looked even worse than what we got already. And we were like, okay, then I don't think we have to change the logo. And we tried it once more for Final Days and had a lot of people working on that. And it was like, no, it's not. It's not going to happen.
The first time I heard Orden Ogan was actually the Ravenhead album. Kind of looking back, how do you feel like that fits into your whole evolution? And was that like an important album for the band?
I think they were all important records. And I just said that in another interview where somebody told me that he thought that we found our sound with To the End in 2012. That was the first real Orden Ogan sounding record. I disagree a little bit, because I think that a song like To New Shores of Sadness that is on Veil 2008, it's not so far away from a song like To the End in 2012, or like a song like In the Dawn of the AI that we've written now. There has always been this Orden Ogan sound. I think it got a little bit more refined over the years. Ravenhead, I mean, it's featuring Fever, that is one of the bigger hits of the band. And there's a lot of stuff that we still play live from Ravenhead. It's Sorrow Is Your Tale or Death Among the Blind. The people really love to hear that songs live. But I really think like all of the records have been important for us. Orden Ogan is a band. We didn't make that overnight jump in becoming big. It was like a constant process in growing, like more and more, step by step by step by step. And I think in our case, it was just the thing that we were just keeping on going, like just marching on, whatever happened.
Yeah.
And I think that is just the key, and doing the best that you can. I mean, we always did the best that we could at the time with the record, and I really also think that they really, really aged well. If I listen back to the older stuff, they still sound decent, and that is why, like I said, we always put a lot of effort and a lot of time into that, where other bands would say, come on, this one take on guitar is enough. We were doing it like until it was perfect, all the time, every time.
Right. Yeah, no, I went on Spotify with preparing for this, just go back to listen to some of the earlier albums that I don't have, and they still sound great.
Thank you.
I noticed a lot of the touring you guys have done has been in Germany, and then kind of Europe beyond that. But do you guys have like a sizable following anywhere else, like globally, that you kind of look forward to once you can tour again?
Yeah, I mean, Europe obviously that works pretty well. I mean, we've been to the States a couple of times. We played like this 70,000 Tons of Metal, though there's not technically not the States. We've been to Prog Power twice. The interesting thing is that Spotify, I think, like the biggest part of our listeners comes from the States, actually. So we'd really love to tour the States, but it has to be a tour that makes sense. We wouldn't go on like headliners first, like we would have to do a support tour that makes really sense to build up like even more of a following. Until we will go out on our own. It's basically the same that we've done in Europe. We've been on tour with as supports of Gravedigger, Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. We've been on tour with Powerwolf, with Hammerfall, like a lot of these bands. Now it's the other way around, and we planned the tour with Gravedigger as our support, and we had Rhapsody of Fire as support on our Gunman tour, and Unleash the Archers, and which are all not small bands on their own. We've been to Japan the first time in 2019, I think it was, and that was fantastic. That was really great. You could really see that there are really a lot of people into ORDEN OGAN and coming to the shows. I think we played 3 venues and everything was totally packed, and so we'd love to go back to Japan as well. And I mean, like I said, we'd love to do the States, but it has to be a tour that really makes sense. But I think we got a great partner for the States now. We just basically were in a lot of discussions just before the pandemic hit. So let's see how it will all turn out.
Yeah. I know a lot of European bands. You want to tour the States, but it's such an undertaking, and it's so expensive. I understand that it's not always possible.
No.
What if you had to pick like your favorite Black Sabbath album of all time? What would it be and why?
Now comes the interesting answer. I can't answer on that. I can't comment on that at all, because apart from Paranoid, I don't know anything about Black Sabbath.
Wow.
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's your go-to for like classic metal?
I think when I was younger, I listened to a lot of Maiden. There was, I think, not even Priest, a little bit of Priest, but not that. Metallica, obviously, of course. I don't think that anyone else I mean, everyone did that. And I really have to say, the fun thing is that a lot of people think he must be super into power metal because he's playing with this power metal-esque band, ORDEN OGAN. But the interesting thing is that, I mean, this is coming out of me. This is coming from the heart. It's really what I love to do. But it's not the other power metal bands that are out there. This is not what I would like to listen to. I'm totally not into power metal at all. So if you ask me where I'm home, like musically, I would say it's like basically old school British death metal, like Bolt Thrower, Benediction, Napalm Death, stuff like that. I also like the US scene, but I really have to say I'd go with a Bolt Thrower maybe. And and nowadays I actually, since I'm a producer myself, I actually listen to a lot of music that is very well produced. So I listen actually a lot of times more to producers than I actually listen to the actual band. So big fan of the works of Chris Lord-Alge, for example, who has been working from Madonna to Joe Cocker to Nickelback and to, like you name it, everyone. A lot of great records there. I love the works of Andy Sneap. So I'm actually not a big thrash metal guy. But I'm still listening a lot to Exodus and Testament, stuff like that, because I just think that the records like sound amazing.
Right.
And this actually led me to the job that I'm doing as a producer, because I really love the way that great records sound,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to do that myself. And so I think that this is one thing that is very, very much underestimated by a lot of people, how important the role of the mixing engineer or the producer actually can be. You can write the best songs in the world. If they sound terrible, then nobody's going to listen to that, or at least not as many people as would be possible.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about power metal, because I never really thought you guys sounded that, like, I'm not sure why you were really put in that category, other than just like you have kind of like maybe the choirs and just there's a lot of melody in your music. But yeah, to me, a lot of the riffs sound a lot more like kind of thrash or, kind of more in that direction than
even more modern. I tell that to other journalists all the time. If you take away the super melodic vocals and put away the orchestra, it could also be metalcore at times, and like journalists are laughing at me like, really, you mean? And I say, yeah, if you just take away, I mean, I know how it sounds. I have listened to that like over and over again without vocals and choirs and orchestra. And it is very modern at times. And I think this is what really, I mean, we're generally labeled power metal, but I really think it transcends the borders of being power metal. And I think it's our very, very, very own stuff. I mean, a lot of bands would say that about themselves, but I think in case of Orden Ogan, it's actually true. I mean, it's not, Orden Ogan would not be the first band you think about when somebody says power metal, then you will think of something else. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, and
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good luck with everything this year. I hope you guys can make it over to the States at some point in the next couple of years. That would be awesome to see you guys.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well,
have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.